My brother brought his rich girlfriend home and mocked my cooking to her face. He completely forgot who actually owned the roof over his head and, more importantly, who was paying the lease on his luxury supercar. I, 28F, have spent the last 3 years keeping my younger brother, Leo, 24M, from completely ruining his life. When he graduated college with a useless degree and zero job prospects, I let him move into my 4-bedroom suburban house rent-free. I paid for his groceries, his phone bill, and even his gym membership. But my most expensive mistake was agreeing to co-sign the lease on his sleek, black Audi A7. He convinced me he desperately needed a luxury car to project a successful image for his new consulting business, a business that, to this day, has generated exactly $0. I wanted to be a supportive sister, so I foolishly agreed to cover the $1,200 monthly payments for just a few months until he got on his feet. 2 years later, I'm still paying. That brings us to last night. Leo texted me at noon with a strict set of demands. He was finally bringing his new girlfriend, Harper, home for dinner. He described her as old money and insisted I prepare a flawless, high-end meal. Despite working a grueling 10-hour shift at the hospital, I spent over $150 on premium ribeye steaks, fresh asparagus, and an expensive bottle of wine. I spent 2 hours in the kitchen, exhausted but genuinely wanting to help him make a good impression. The nightmare began the second they walked through the front door. Leo strutted into my house, tossing the keys to the Audi onto the counter with an arrogant smirk. He was wearing a tailored suit I had never seen before. He wrapped his arm around Harper, a woman dripping in designer labels, who immediately looked me up and down like I was the hired help. "Just put our coats in the hall closet," Leo ordered me, not even offering a hello. I bit my tongue, took their coats, and served the dinner. But the moment we sat down at the dining table, the humiliation escalated. Leo cut into the perfectly cooked steak, chewed exactly once, and dramatically dropped his silver fork onto the porcelain plate with a loud clatter. "I am so incredibly sorry, Harper," Leo sighed, shaking his head with a look of profound disappointment. "My sister tries her best, but her cooking is just so tragically average. I usually have my private chef handle meals at my place, but I let her stay here out of pity since she's struggling financially." My blood ran completely cold. His place? Pity? Harper let out a high-pitched, condescending laugh. "It's totally fine, babe," she cooed. "It's sweet of you to let your poor sister crash in your guest room." Leo smirked at me, his eyes flashing a silent, aggressive warning to play along with his pathetic fantasy. He actually expected me to swallow my pride and accept being treated like a peasant in my own home. He thought I was weak. But what Leo didn't know was that just 3 hours before they arrived, I had received a very interesting phone call from the luxury car dealership. I slowly wiped my mouth with a linen napkin, staring directly into my brother's smug face, and let out a soft chuckle. "Are you okay?" Harper asked, her perfectly manicured eyebrow raised in absolute disgust. My soft chuckle had clearly caught them both off guard. "Oh, I'm perfectly fine," I replied, forcing a polite, tight-lipped smile. "I just remembered a really funny joke." Leo's eyes narrowed for a split second, sensing the danger, but he quickly turned his attention back to his girlfriend, pouring her another glass of my expensive vintage wine. For the rest of the dinner, I sat there in complete silence. I decided not to blow my top right then and there. Instead, I let him dig his own grave. And oh boy, did he grab a shovel and start digging. He spent the next 30 minutes bragging about his imaginary multi-million-dollar stock portfolio and how exhausting it was to manage his massive property. The absolute peak of his delusion was when he pointed to the custom oak kitchen cabinets that I had saved up for and installed last year, casually claiming he had imported the wood from Italy himself just for fun. Harper was eating it up. "You have such amazing taste, Leo," she purred, tracing the rim of her wine glass. "It's honestly so generous of you to let your poor sister stay here. Though, we really should think about turning her room into a home gym. The house feels a bit cluttered." "We?" Leo nodded eagerly, puffing out his chest. "Actually, I was thinking the exact same thing." He then turned to me, his tone shifting seamlessly back into that arrogant, demanding boss persona. Listen, since I'm hosting Harper here for the entire weekend, I need you to clear your stuff out of the master bedroom. It's the only room with the ensuite jacuzzi, and Harper needs her space to relax. You can sleep on the air mattress down in the basement. I just stared at him. The sheer audacity was almost impressive. He wasn't just wearing my patience thin, he was actively tap dancing on it in a tailored suit I probably paid for. "I'll get right on that," I said quietly, gathering their empty plates and retreating to the kitchen. As soon as the kitchen door swung shut, the polite smile vanished from my face. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. It was finally time to address that little phone call I had received earlier from the luxury auto dealership. You see, the dealership hadn't just called to check in. They called to inform me that the sleek Audi A7 had racked up over $2,000 in unpaid parking tickets, and the mandatory insurance had completely lapsed. Because my name was the primary one on the lease, they were holding me legally liable. The representative told me I had two choices: pay the massive fines immediately, or authorize a voluntary repossession to terminate the contract once and for all. Through the thin kitchen wall, I could hear Leo loudly promising Harper a designer shopping spree the next morning, bragging about how they'd take his Audi for a romantic drive down the coast. My thumb hovered over my phone screen. I opened the secure email the dealership had sent me. I didn't hesitate for another second. With a single tap, I digitally signed the immediate repossession order. Let's see how you impress your rich girlfriend tomorrow morning, Leo. I didn't sleep in the basement. Instead, after digitally signing the repossession order, I quietly walked upstairs, stepped into my master bedroom, deadbolted the heavy oak door, and put in my noise-canceling earplugs. I can only imagine the desperate, pathetic excuses Leo had to invent when he brought his old money girlfriend upstairs, only to find the master suite locked, forcing them to spend the night in the cramped, dusty guest room down the hall. Saturday morning rolled around. I was up bright and early, happily sipping a hot cup of coffee at the kitchen island, just waiting for the show to begin. Around 9 a.m., Leo finally stormed downstairs. He looked absolutely furious, his face red with anger, but he kept his voice down to a harsh whisper so Harper wouldn't hear him from upstairs. "What the hell was that last night?" he hissed, marching up to me and pointing a finger inches from my face. "You totally embarrassed me. Harper had to sleep on a cheap mattress because you decided to throw a petty tantrum and lock your door." I simply shrugged, taking a slow, deliberate sip of my coffee. "My house, my bedroom, Leo." He scoffed loudly, adjusting the collar of his crisp, designer polo shirt. "Whatever. I don't have the time or the crayons to deal with your jealousy right now. Harper and I are going out for a romantic coastal drive in the Audi, and then we're hitting the luxury boutiques downtown. I need you to wash and dry clean the suit I wore last night by the time we get back. Oh, and make us 2 iced lattes to go." Normally, this is the exact moment where we would get into a massive, house-shaking screaming match. But today I was feeling incredibly accommodating. "Sure thing, little brother," I said with a bright, overly cheerful smile. "I'll get right on that laundry. You guys just go ahead and have a wonderful time." Leo paused. He squinted at me suspiciously, clearly thrown off by my sudden, cheerful obedience. But his massive ego quickly took over, convincing him that I had simply accepted my place as his personal servant. He grabbed the keys to the Audi off the kitchen counter, tossing them in the air and catching them with a smug, arrogant grin. "That's more like it. Learn your place," he muttered. Just as he turned his back to me, my phone vibrated twice in my pocket. I pulled it out and looked at the screen. It was a text message from an unknown number. "This is dispatch for elite recovery and towing. We just turned onto your street. The target vehicle is in sight." Right on cue, I heard the heavy, unmistakable rumble of a large diesel engine approaching the house. I glanced out the large kitchen window. Slowly backing into my driveway, with its heavy metal chains clinking and hydraulic lifts humming, was a massive, bright yellow tow truck. It was lining up perfectly with the rear bumper of Leo's precious, leased Audi A7. At that exact moment, Harper walked into the kitchen, looking glamorous in a giant sun hat and oversized sunglasses. "Ready for our scenic drive, babe?" she asked Leo, wrapping her arms around him. Born ready, Leo smirked, reaching out to open the front door. I took one last sip of my coffee, biting my lip to hide the massive grin spreading across my face. Oh, you are definitely not ready for this. Leo swung the heavy wooden front door open, stepping out into the crisp morning air with the confident, arrogant swagger of a billionaire. But that smug grin vanished from his face in less than a second. Harper, who had been busy checking her makeup in her phone's front camera, bumped right into his back. Leo, why did you stop? Oh my God. I leaned against the doorframe, sipping my coffee, and watched the beautiful chaos unfold. There, taking up the entirety of my driveway, was the massive yellow tow truck. The heavy hydraulic lift was already engaged, the thick steel claws sliding effortlessly under the front tires of Leo's precious, gleaming black Audi A7. For 3 agonizing seconds, Leo just stood there on the porch, completely paralyzed. His brain simply couldn't process the reality in front of him. Then, the pure, unadulterated panic set in. Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing? Leo screamed, his voice cracking in absolute hysteria. He sprinted down the driveway, waving his arms frantically. The tow truck driver, a burly, bearded man in a high-vis vest holding a metal clipboard, didn't even flinch. He just kept casually chewing his gum and pulling the control levers. The winch whined loudly, lifting the front of the luxury car 2 feet off the ground. Taking the vehicle, buddy. Stand back, the driver grunted, not even bothering to look at him. Are you completely out of your mind? Leo shrieked, face turning a deep, angry shade of purple. Drop my car right now. Do you have any idea who I am? I am a CEO. I have expensive lawyers on speed dial. I will sue your entire company into bankruptcy. Unhook my car immediately. Harper slowly walked down the porch steps, clutching her designer handbag tightly to her chest. She looked utterly horrified. The commotion was loud enough that a few of our neighbors had started peeking out through their living room blinds. Leo, babe, what is going on? Harper asked, her voice trembling with a mix of confusion and profound embarrassment. Did you forget to pay a parking ticket or something? Why are they taking your car? It's a mistake. A massive, stupid administrative mistake. Leo yelled back to her, desperately trying to keep his wealthy facade from crumbling. He turned back to the driver, puffing out his chest to look intimidating. Listen to me, you incompetent idiot. This is my car. You clearly have the wrong address and the wrong license plate. The driver finally let go of the hydraulic levers. He sighed, pulled a thick stack of legal paperwork from his clipboard, and slowly adjusted his sunglasses. Wrong address, huh? The driver said calmly, flipping to the second page. Listen, kid, I don't care if you're a CEO or the president. The bank ordered a direct repossession for severely delinquent payments and lapsed insurance. That's impossible. I own that car. Leo spat back. The driver looked down at the highlighted name on the legal repossession order. He stared at the paper for a long moment, then looked back up at Leo, squinting. Wait a minute, the driver said, his voice dripping with sudden amusement. Unless you've had a very recent and very drastic life change, you are definitely not a 28-year-old woman. A 28-year-old woman? Harper echoed, her voice dropping to a shocked, breathless whisper. She spun around, staring at Leo with wide eyes, her designer sunglasses slipping down the bridge of her nose. Leo, what on earth is he talking about? Leo's face went completely pale. All the arrogant color drained from his cheeks, leaving him looking like a terrified little boy caught stealing candy, rather than a wealthy CEO. It's just a massive clerical error, babe, he stammered, his confident swagger completely evaporating. The dealership messed up the registration paperwork. My sister just helped me file some minor documents, that's all. The tow truck driver let out a loud, raspy laugh, completely unimpressed. He tapped the heavy clipboard with his thick knuckles. Listen, buddy. I do this for a living and there is no clerical error here. This luxury vehicle is leased under one name, and one name only. He looked past Leo, scanning the front porch, and locked eyes with me. He then read my full legal name aloud, his booming voice echoing clearly through our quiet suburban street. I need her signature to finalize the voluntary surrender, or I'm dragging this thing to the impound lot anyway. Harper slowly turned her head. She looked past Leo's trembling shoulders and stared directly at me, standing casually on the porch with my coffee mug. The pieces were finally starting to click together in her head. "Hey, don't just stand there like an idiot." Leo screamed at me, pure panic completely taking over his voice. He practically tripped over his own expensive loafers as he ran back toward the porch steps, his fists clenched. "Tell this guy to drop my car right now. Tell him it's mine. I pay for this. You need to fix this mistake immediately before you ruin my entire weekend." I took one final, agonizingly slow sip of my coffee. The morning air was crisp, but the absolute, undeniable terror radiating from my brother was so much sweeter. I walked down the wooden steps, my slippers padding softly against the concrete driveway. I completely ignored Leo's frantic yelling, walking right past him, and approached the burly tow truck driver. I pulled my driver's license out of my robe pocket and handed it to him. The driver inspected the ID, nodded in confirmation, and handed me a pen and the heavy clipboard. "Sign on the dotted line, ma'am. The bank has been trying to track this vehicle down for over a month. We got the voluntary repossession order you signed last night." "Wait, what?" Leo gasped, his eyes darting frantically between me, the pen, and the clipboard. The realization hit him like a freight train. "Voluntary? What are you doing? Don't you dare sign that. Stop." I clicked the pen. I looked my brother dead in the eyes, all the fake, cheerful politeness from earlier completely gone. "You told me to learn my place, Leo," I said, my voice cold, steady, and loud enough for Harper to hear every single word. I signed my name with a deliberate flourish and handed the clipboard back to the driver. "My place is being the legal owner of this car. And as the primary leaseholder, I'm officially cutting off the broke deadbeat who hasn't paid a single dime for it in 2 years." The winch gears ground loudly as the driver hoisted the Audi completely into the air. I turned to Harper, who was now staring at Leo with pure, unadulterated disgust. "I am so sorry about the change of plans, Harper," I smiled warmly. "But it looks like your billionaire boyfriend is going to have to call you an Uber." The heavy diesel engine of the tow truck roared to life, vibrating the concrete driveway beneath our feet. Leo lunged forward, desperately grabbing at the steel chains holding the Audi, but the burly driver simply swatted his hand away like a pesky mosquito. "Touch my rig again, kid, and I'll have the cops here in 2 minutes," the driver warned, climbing into the cab and slamming the heavy metal door. Leo stood frozen in the driveway, his expensive leather loafers covered in morning dew, watching helplessly as his entire fake billionaire persona was towed away down the street. The bright yellow truck turned the corner, taking the sleek black Audi out of sight forever. A heavy, suffocating silence fell over the front yard. The only sound was the distant chirping of birds and the frantic, ragged breathing coming from my brother. Harper slowly lowered her designer handbag. The look on her flawless face had shifted from pure shock to a deep, burning humiliation. She took 2 deliberate steps backward, putting physical distance between herself and Leo. "Harper, wait," Leo pleaded, his voice cracking as he spun around to face her. He held his hands up in a desperate, placating gesture. "I can explain everything. My sister is she's having a mental breakdown. She's insanely jealous of my success. That car thing? It's just a tax write-off loop that got messed up by my accountant. I swear." Harper didn't blink. "A tax write-off loop," she repeated, her tone dripping with absolute ice. "So, let me get this straight. You're a highly successful CEO with a multi-million-dollar stock portfolio, but your sister had to sign the paperwork to surrender your car because you couldn't afford a $1,200 lease. It's a temporary liquidity issue. All my assets are tied up in commercial real estate." Leo stammered, sweating profusely despite the cool morning air. I couldn't help it. I let out a loud, genuine laugh that echoed across the lawn. "Real estate? The only real estate you manage is the basement sofa when you fall asleep playing video games." Leo turned his rage toward me, his face twisting into an ugly, hateful sneer. "Shut your mouth. You are ruining everything," he screamed, taking a threatening step toward the porch. But I didn't flinch. I stood tall, looking down at him. No, Leo. The illusion is over. I'm done playing a supporting role in your pathetic fantasy. I turned to Harper, who was staring at me, waiting for the final nail in the coffin. This is my house. I bought it 3 years ago. I pay the mortgage. I bought the expensive groceries you ate last night, and I spent hours cooking that meal while he played on his phone. He has no job. He has no company. He doesn't even pay for his own cell phone plan. Harper gasped, her eyes widening in pure horror as she slowly looked up and down at the tailored, expensive suit Leo was wearing. Oh yes, I smiled, following her horrified gaze down to his perfectly fitted jacket. I bought that too. And the black credit card he used to buy your fancy cocktails last week? Let me guess. The last 4 digits were 4,928. Harper's face went completely pale, and she reached into her purse. Because she knew exactly what I was about to say next. Harper pulled her sleek smartphone from her designer bag, her perfectly manicured fingers trembling slightly as she opened her digital receipt from their lavish dinner date last week. I watched her eyes dart across the glowing screen, the silence in the driveway growing heavier by the second. 4,928, Harper read aloud, her voice barely above a horrified whisper. She looked up, staring at Leo as if he had suddenly morphed into a disgusting, venomous insect right in front of her. The black card you so proudly slapped on the table. The one you explicitly told me was your exclusive corporate account. It belongs to your sister. Leo's entire grand facade completely shattered in that exact moment. He didn't even try to formulate another smooth, calculated lie. Instead, like a cornered animal realizing there was no escape, he turned his absolute, vitriolic fury onto me. The charming, sophisticated billionaire vanished, instantly replaced by the entitled, spoiled man-child I had been cleaning up after for years. Are you completely insane? Leo roared, his face contorting with pure, unadulterated rage. He took a violent, threatening step toward the porch, kicking one of my expensive potted plants so hard it shattered across the concrete walkway. You planned this. You humiliated me on purpose because you're a miserable, lonely loser who can't stand seeing me happy. I didn't flinch. I just reached into the deep pocket of my morning robe and pulled out a thick, tightly folded stack of papers I had printed out the night before. I tossed them casually down the porch steps. They fluttered and scattered across the driveway, landing right at Harper's expensive heels. Succeed? I fired back, my voice echoing sharply down the quiet suburban street. At what exactly, Leo? Playing video games in my guest room until 3 a.m.? Look at the papers, Harper. His internet bill? Paid by me. His premium health insurance? Paid by me. That overpriced VIP gym membership he uses strictly to take mirror selfies for his Instagram? Paid by me. Shut up. Just shut up. Leo screamed, dropping to his knees to scramble and pick up the scattered bank statements, desperately trying to hide the red highlighted numbers. But the damage was already done. I have spent the last 2 years draining my own savings to keep you afloat, I continued, stepping down the stairs to look down at him. But demanding I serve you like a peasant in the house I pay for? Mocking my cooking to your girlfriend after I worked a 10-hour hospital shift just to feed your ungrateful mouth? That was the final straw. Leo glared up at me, breathing heavily, his fists clenched tight enough to turn his knuckles white. You owe me, he spat venomously, his true colors fully on display. We're family. You have the money, and I needed it to build my elite network. You're just too stupid to understand high-level business. I let out a cold, dismissive laugh and turned my attention completely away from my pathetic brother, locking eyes with the horrified woman standing behind him. Well, Harper, I smiled sweetly, delivering the final, devastating blow. I hope you enjoy taking the public bus. Because your high-level business boyfriend doesn't even have $50 to his name. Harper stood there, completely frozen. The brutal reality of my words hung in the crisp morning air like a thick, suffocating fog. She looked down at the highlighted bank statements scattered across the concrete driveway, and then slowly shifted her gaze to Leo, who was still frantically scrambling on his knees, trying to gather the papers like a caught thief. All the glamorous, high society charm completely drained from Harper's face. Her flawless makeup couldn't hide the fact that her upper lip was now curling into a sneer of pure, unfiltered disgust. "Harper, please," Leo choked out, finally standing up and holding his hands out in a desperate, trembling gesture. "You have to listen to me. She's twisting the truth. I have investments. My portfolio is just temporarily frozen." Smack. The sound of Harper's open palm striking Leo's cheek echoed so loudly it made a neighbor's dog start barking down the street. It was a flawless, devastating, full-force slap. Leo's head violently snapped to the side, and a bright red handprint instantly began to bloom across his pale jawline. "Don't you ever speak to me again," Harper hissed, her voice shaking with an intense, burning rage. "You lied to me for months. You dragged me to luxury boutiques and exclusive clubs, acting like a VIP, while your sister funded your pathetic little masquerade. You are nothing but a broke, manipulative parasite. Baby, wait. I love you. I was doing this all for us." Leo cried out, his voice cracking as he practically dropped back to his knees, reaching out to grab the edge of her designer trench coat. Harper violently yanked her coat away, stepping back. "Do not touch me," she screamed, pulling out her phone and furiously tapping the screen to order a premium Uber. She didn't even look at him anymore. Her eyes were locked onto her phone screen, treating him like garbage on the bottom of her expensive heels. "I am blocking your number right now. If you ever try to contact me again, I will have my father's lawyers destroy whatever is left of your miserable life." For the next 5 excruciating minutes, we stood in absolute silence on the driveway. Leo was openly weeping, begging, and pleading in a pathetic, high-pitched whine, making an absolute fool of himself in front of the entire neighborhood. But Harper just stared straight ahead, completely ignoring his existence. Finally, a sleek black SUV pulled up to the curb. Harper opened the heavy door, slid into the back seat without a single backward glance, and slammed the door shut. Leo chased after the car as it pulled away, slapping his hands against the tinted rear window. "Harper. Harper, please come back," he wailed, stumbling over his own expensive loafers until the SUV turned the corner and disappeared completely. He stood alone in the middle of the street for a long, heavy moment. His chest heaved up and down as his desperate, pathetic sobs slowly morphed into something else entirely. Slowly, Leo turned around to face me. The tears on his face had dried, replaced by a dark, twisted expression of pure, unhinged malice. His eyes were bloodshot, glaring at me with the intensity of a wild, cornered animal. "You just ruined my entire life," Leo whispered, his voice trembling with a dark, terrifying promise. "And now, I am going to make you pay." Leo marched toward me, his fists clenched so tight his knuckles were stark white. The pathetic, weeping boy from 5 seconds ago was gone, replaced by a destructive, entitled monster who had finally been told no for the first time in his life. "You think you're so smart, huh?" he spat, closing the distance between us until he was standing just inches from my face. "You think you can just ruin my relationship, embarrass me in front of the whole neighborhood, and get away with it? I'm going to walk into that house, and I am going to smash every single thing you own. I'll rip your expensive custom cabinets off the walls. I'll destroy this whole place until you're literally begging for my forgiveness." He shoved violently past my shoulder, marching heavily up the concrete steps toward the front porch. He was fully prepared to tear my sanctuary apart. I didn't try to stop him. I didn't even turn around right away. I just casually adjusted the belt of my morning robe and cleared my throat. "I wouldn't do that if I were you, Leo," I said calmly. He paused with his hand on the front door handle, looking back at me with a deranged, mocking smile. "What are you going to do? Stop me?" "No," I replied, slowly turning to face him. I lifted my arm and pointed toward the side of the house, right next to the large green garbage bins. "But the heavy-duty deadbolt I had installed yesterday will. And so will the new smart lock system on the front door." Leo's mocking smile faltered. He aggressively yanked the front door handle. It didn't budge. He yanked it again, harder this time, violently rattling the heavy oak door. Locked tight. He spun his head to look exactly where I was pointing. Sitting neatly on the wet morning grass, directly next to the trash cans, were 3 large, heavy suitcases. While you were busy crying in the street and begging your gold digger girlfriend to stay, I finished the chores you gave me this morning. I smiled coldly. Remember when you ordered me to clear out my bedroom? Well, I packed up instead. Every single designer shirt, every bottle of expensive cologne, and every pair of shoes I foolishly bought for you. It's all in those bags. You locked me out. Leo stammered, the reality finally starting to penetrate his thick skull. You can't do that. I live here. I have squatter's rights. I get mail here. You have absolutely nothing, I corrected him, taking a firm step forward. Your name is not on the deed, it's not on the mortgage, and we have no written lease agreement. If you step 1 foot past this porch, you are officially trespassing on my private property. Leo let out a loud, frustrated roar. I don't care about your stupid property laws. Open this door right now, or I swear I'll break a window. He grabbed a heavy, decorative stone from my garden bed, raising it high above his head to smash the large living room glass. But before he could throw it, the sharp, unmistakable wail of approaching sirens echoed through our quiet street. I smiled, tapping the glowing screen of my smartphone. You might want to put the rock down, Leo. I dialed 911 5 minutes ago. The flashing red and blue lights of the police cruiser reflected violently against the shattered remnants of my expensive potted plant. The very second Leo saw the 2 uniformed officers step out of their vehicle, his rock-throwing bravado instantly evaporated. He dropped the heavy garden stone like it was burning his skin and immediately launched into a pathetic, weeping victim routine. He blabbered frantically to the officers about how I was stealing his property and kicking him out illegally. But the cops weren't born yesterday. Once I calmly showed them the deed to the house, firmly in my name alone, the lack of any written lease, and the crisp 4K Ring doorbell footage of him threatening to smash my windows, they gave him exactly one option. He could either grab his 3 suitcases and walk away right now, or he could leave in the back of their squad car in shiny steel handcuffs. Watching Leo humiliatingly drag his heavy, overstuffed suitcases down the street while the police cruiser slowly trailed behind him to ensure he left the neighborhood, it was the most deeply satisfying morning of my entire life. For the first time in 2 years, my house was finally quiet. The suffocating weight was gone. I spent the entire afternoon deep cleaning the guest room, throwing away the empty pizza boxes and energy drink cans he had hoarded under the bed. I was actually humming a cheerful tune. But of course, the peace didn't last long. At exactly 4 p.m., my phone started vibrating violently on the kitchen island. The caller ID flashed my mother's name. I let it ring 3 times before I finally tapped the green button and put the call on speakerphone. I didn't even get a chance to say hello. Are you completely out of your mind? My mother's shrill, hysterical scream exploded from the speaker, echoing off my clean kitchen walls. Your brother is sitting in our living room right now, crying his eyes out. He told us everything. He lost his relationship, his beautiful car, and his home because you decided to have a petty, jealous temper tantrum. What kind of cold-blooded monster throws their own flesh and blood out onto the street? The kind of monster who got tired of funding a 24-year-old toddler's fake billionaire lifestyle, I replied smoothly, continuing to wipe down my granite countertops. You listen to me right now, my father's booming, authoritative voice suddenly joined the call. He had clearly snatched the phone from my mother. You are going to drive over here, apologize to your brother, and bring him back to his room. Then you are going to call that dealership and fix whatever stupid mess you made with his car. Family helps family, and you are acting like a selfish, miserable brat. I stopped wiping the counter. I slowly folded my cleaning rag, leaning in closer to the glowing screen of my phone. I wasn't angry. I wasn't shaking. In fact, a wide, genuine smile spread across my face. You know what, Dad? You are absolutely right, I said, my voice dripping with sweet, lethal compliance. Family is the most important thing in the world. And since you two believe so strongly in supporting his luxurious lifestyle, you can take over his bills. What on earth are you talking about? My father scoffed, his voice booming through the speakerphone. We are retired on a fixed income. You are a senior registered nurse making excellent money. It is your absolute duty as the older sibling to look after your little brother until his business takes off. A fixed income? I repeated, leaning heavily against the granite counter and letting out a sharp, humorless laugh. Dad, do you honestly believe your pathetic state pension covers the country club membership fees and Mom's weekly luxury spa trips? Or did you just magically assume your checking account was miraculously refilling itself every month? The line went completely dead for a few seconds. I could hear the faint, confused shuffling of feet in their living room. I didn't give them a chance to recover. I was finally unleashing the massive, suffocating secret I had been carrying for years. Let me break down the reality of your fixed income for you, I said, my voice steady and razor-sharp. Mom's $15,000 secret credit card debt that she racked up in Vegas 3 years ago? I paid it off in full to save your marriage. Your imported heart medication that Medicare refuses to cover? I pay the $600 difference out of my own pocket on the first of every single month. And those bonus retirement checks you bragged to your friends about getting from your old union? That is an auto transfer directly from my personal savings account. Through the phone, I heard a loud gasp. It was my mother. The arrogant, demanding tone from my father had completely vanished, instantly replaced by a terrifying realization. Wait, what are you saying? My father stammered, his voice suddenly sounding incredibly small and fragile. You pay for the medication? No, the bank said. I paid for it, Dad. Past tense, I corrected him coldly. I sacrificed my entire 20s to keep this ungrateful family afloat. I worked double shifts and skipped vacations while you two treated me like a disposable ATM and worshipped the ground that Leo walked on. Well, congratulations. You officially pushed me too far. The ATM is permanently out of order. Sweetheart, please, let's just calm down, my mother chimed in, her voice trembling violently. You don't mean that. We're family. Since Leo is a highly successful CEO with a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio, he loves to brag, he can easily cover your expenses from now on, I continued, totally ignoring her pleas. I have my banking portal open on my laptop right now. I am officially canceling every single direct deposit, auto pay, and recurring transfer tied to your accounts. Effective immediately. A suffocating, deathly silence fell over the line. The terrifying weight of their impending financial ruin had finally crushed them. Then the silence broke. No, please. Sweetheart, wait, we didn't know, my mother wailed, bursting into hysterical, desperate tears. We'll make him apologize. We'll send him back. Please don't do this, we can't afford the house without you. I stared down at the glowing red button on my phone screen, feeling lighter than I had in years. Enjoy your golden years, I whispered. With one satisfying tap, I ended the call and permanently blocked their numbers. 6 months have passed since I tapped that red button and permanently blocked their numbers. And honestly, my life has completely transformed. For the first time since I can remember, my house is actually a home. It's quiet, it stays clean, and my grocery bill has been cut by 70%. Without the suffocating stress of managing Leo's life and my parents' secret debts, my sleep improved dramatically. I had so much extra energy at the hospital that I recently applied for and won the promotion to head charge nurse. I even treated myself to the expensive Italian espresso machine I had been staring at online for 2 years. I never unblocked my family. But in a family as gossipy as mine, updates always find a way to reach you. Last week, my aunt bumped into me at the supermarket. She immediately tried to guilt-trip me, but in doing so, she gave me the exact update I didn't know I needed. Without my monthly financial life support, my parents' comfortable retirement completely imploded. They couldn't afford their country club lifestyle or their mortgage, forcing them to sell their beautiful house and downsize into a cramped, 2-bedroom apartment across town. And Leo? His imaginary multi-million-dollar empire vanished into thin air. He is currently working the afternoon shift at a greasy fast food burger joint just to help pay my parents' rent. My aunt told me that the environment in their tiny apartment is incredibly toxic. Every single night, my parents scream at Leo, calling him a useless burden and blaming his arrogant behavior for making them lose their golden goose. Because his credit is completely destroyed from the repossession, he can't even finance a used sedan. The highly successful CEO now commutes to his minimum wage job through the winter snow on a rusty, second-hand electric bike. Hearing all of this didn't make me jump for joy, but it didn't make me sad either. It just brought a profound sense of closure. This morning, I walked out onto my front porch, sipping a perfectly brewed cappuccino from my new machine. I looked out at the empty concrete driveway where his fake, leased luxury car used to sit, taking a deep breath of the crisp, peaceful air. People always say that family is everything, that blood is thicker than water. But I learned the hard way that blood only makes you related. Loyalty, respect, and gratitude are what actually make you family. I gave them everything I had, and they treated me like a disposable stepping stone. The most valuable lesson I can pass on is this: don't ever bite the hand that feeds you, unless you are absolutely certain you know how to hunt for your own meals. Because when that hand finally pulls away, the starvation is entirely your own fault.